We're back.
Okay, so Erika, there's a lot going on around sensory processing and sensory processing differences, and that can be seen as distinct to behaviour, but do you think it is?
A lot of the time it's not distinct to behaviour. So when we talk about sensory needs, sensory processing difficulties, we need to remember that that is not diagnosis specific. So yes, it may be. So you may have somebody on the autism spectrum who sensory challenges are embedded in their diagnosis. You may have somebody who has sensory processing disorder, for instance, but you and I, we all have our own sensory needs and sensory preferences. Sometimes people's are just a little bit stronger than others in terms of what their needs are. So they can run concurrently, but where they intersect is an example of that would be, for instance, you might pick your child up from daycare or school and they have spent the whole day following instructions and being overwhelmed by the environment, and the lights are on, there's colourful stuff all over the walls, kids are screaming, kids are crying. It's just a full-on environment a lot of the time. You get them in the car and the wheels completely fall off, right? It's just like a switch has gone off and they've turned into a different child. And we would need to assess it more to understand exactly why, but chances are pretty good that they have reached their threshold of what they're able to cope in terms of the sensory environment of that day. They're now in their safe space with their safe person and it all just collapses. And sometimes that can look like behavior. That might be that all of a sudden your child has huge outburst behavior and becomes physically aggressive. It could be that they start to withdraw from you and they won't talk to you about anything, and you're asking how their day was and you've missed them and what was the best part of your day and you're not getting biscuits from them. So that's when we start to see a relationship between the sensory needs of somebody and those sort of not being met, manifesting into what behaviour. We tend to move away from terms now like challenging behaviour or behaviours of concern because there's so much connotation in that, and that could be a whole separate video on that. So let's just say behaviour, and that's going to look differently for everyone. So that's just one example of how they do work hand in hand.
Yeah, and as the amazing behaviour support practitioner that you are, what are a couple of proactive strategies that people could be using to stop us from getting to that endpoint meltdown?
So sometimes the proactive stuff is within our control, sometimes it's not. So for instance, a school or a daycare centre, it would be amazing if they had a chill out zone, for instance, where there are no high sensory demands in the environment. So a tent that still maintains line of sight supervision is still able to be maintained, but somebody can go there and just decompress periodically throughout the day. So we look at the analogy of sort of emptying the cup out of their water throughout the day so that when they get to you in the car at the end of the day, it doesn't just all overflow. That would be an incredible proactive strategy. Headphones throughout the day when it all gets too much. So all of these little things, I mean, we could throw a million suggestions out there, but sometimes those things aren't within our control. Sometimes the school says, no, we're not equipped for that. We don't have an environment for that. We can't supervise, kids aren't allowed headphones at school, and that becomes really challenging when there's no control around that. So then the question becomes, well, what can we do in the lead up to going to school or daycare or whatever it is, and what can we do after? I know that when children get in the car at the end of the day, that's usually a huge pain point for a lot of families that come to us and say they've just completely turned into a different kid and I don't know what to do. And a couple of really general strategies that might be helpful at that point is to look at how we can sort of restabilize the nervous system, regulate it, bring it back down to baseline through things like maybe a weighted lap toy in the car, some crunchy snacks if you are a parent that allows snacking in the car. Some people do, some people don't, and headphones. And you say, I'm just going to give my child 15 minutes to decompress without asking anything about their day, without even trying to connect with them, which is really, really hard because you've probably missed them all day and that's the first thing you want. But we need to give their nervous system a chance to get itself back in order. So in 15 minutes time, their cup is emptied and we're able to say, cool, how was your day? Let's talk about it. So that would be a really general.
Yeah. And Erika mentioned crunchy snacks, which can be great for our kiddos who need a lot of input with chewing, but sometimes also like an ice block can be really good because that cooling sensation can really bring down the nervous system too. So as Erika pointed out, there's lots of different options. It's not like one size fits all. It's about trying different things and seeing how your child responds and what their needs are.
But just, I guess one of the summaries is just do consider what impact the world of sensory stuff could be having on your child at that moment. So don't look at behavior as, how do I stop this? Sometimes our goal is not to stop behavior. Sometimes behavior just has to run its course, but our job is to support the person so that over time that behavior reduces in frequency and it reduces in how, in its severity, if you will. So it's not about how do I stop this. The question is, what is going on for this person at this particular time that I can help support in future circumstances so that the likelihood reduces around this. And sensory stuff, really, really, really often overlooked, particularly if the child does, or the young adult or the adult doesn't have a diagnosis. But we live in a world we're not geared for. We are effectively Neanderthals living in the digital age. Our life is busier than ever. Too many screens, too much stimulation, and so all of our nervous systems are probably pretty fried.
Yeah.
Mine is.
Yeah. And that makes our window of tolerance also smaller, which means we can't really handle what we think we can all the time. So
coping skills going down, stimulation's going up. That's how it's looking at the moment. We hope that's helpful. We're happy to do these little series periodically, so feel free to come to us with any questions or comments, and we will do our best to respond to you.
Thanks
for joining.